Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a best of 3 series of Terran versus Protoss. First off, in the bottom left hand corner, we have the world champion of StarCraft 2 and he goes by the name of Clem. And his opponent up in the top right with the red Protoss pieces, he goes by the name of Estrella. Now this particular best of 3 series, it's played on the new multiplayer balance patch, however not yet the updated version of it. So we have all of the important changes, but not quite the most recent version. It'll probably be a couple of days, maybe a week or so, until I will be able to get my hands on some replays that are going to be relevant for the most recent version of the balance patch. But we also do find ourselves on brand new maps. I haven't yet seen any games yet on the new maps, or at least not once at this level. So we're gonna have to find out exactly what these maps are like. Now, this particular map is called Leylines LC. I'm assuming the LC stands for ladder candidate. So on the PTR, there are 6 new maps. And I'm assuming that means that we are gonna keep 3 maps from the current StarCraft 2 map pool, and we're gonna replace 6 that aren't particularly popular with brand new ones. So we'll have to figure out exactly what this map is like. So I don't actually know who made the map, which is a little bit funky. I can't really find a whole lot of information about it. It didn't do particularly well during the Team Liquid map contest. Either that or it's new. There's no Wikipedia page for it yet. All I have is the PTR map description, and it does not give me the author of the map. Alright, so it says the following. You have 3 main paths to cross the map. All of them lead around a forward base with 6 mineral nodes and a rich gas geyser. That is blocked by a reduced mineral node. Okay, so in order to gain access to the rich gas, you have to mine the node first. Rotation between the lanes leads through the low ground. Okay, apparently there's a typo in the map description. It leads through the low ground in the middle. All right, it's probably best for us to go ahead and have a look. Now, first off, Leylines, is that map name okay? It's no Jagannatha. It's no Jagannath, or however we pronounce that map. I think Leylines is a pretty okay one. I don't think we can be complaining about that all too much. So, we have a normal size main base, as we, by the way, have very normal builds here. We do indeed have a Twilight Council start for Estrella, and nothing out of the ordinary right here for Clem, who's now going to be following this up with a factory. We've got a normal natural, normal main base. Looks like there is a jump up location in the main base as well to get up towards that high ground and to very quickly go around the opponent's base if you need to, with, for example, a Reaper. I mean, you could technically, I guess you could technically scout as well with a Colossus. A Colossus can use its cliff walking ability, but usually it's suboptimal. Then it looks like there are 2 third base options that are very likely to be taken quickly, but you also have that forward base. So the forward base apparently has... So it says in order to gain access to the rich gas, you have to mine the node first. So I don't really know exactly how many resources are in that node, as we have an SCV on the hunt. Probably could have tried to see if it can catch all the way up there, but the Reaper managed to get that final hit in. Alright, I'm hoping one of the players will end up taking it, because it looks like you can mine this relatively easily, but maybe it's blocked from building for now. So that's actually kind of a cool idea. You would have to finish the Nexus first, or you could, I guess, long distance mine it, but if you're the Protoss here, you would have to finish the Nexus first, mine out the skinny mineral field, and then eventually you can take the gas. Alright. We have a low ground base right over here as well, right next to it. And we have in general just a whole lot of expansions. Initial impressions here, obviously I haven't really seen a whole lot of games on this map yet, but my initial impressions are positive. Honestly, map design is very important when it comes to balancing StarCraft 2. It's one of those things that is not often discussed by the StarCraft community, but maps have a very significant impact on, well, all things StarCraft, and especially balance. Some maps will just simply allow for much quicker turtling, right? Some maps just have much easier outer bases to acquire, so if your goal in a game of StarCraft, say for example you're a Terran going up against Zerg, if your goal is to mine 50% of the map, you can imagine if all of the bases are relatively easy to take, it does promote turtling. Now, this is a lovely little play here. I love the hallucination on probes. So, Estrella is using that new Nexus ability. We already saw an hallucinated Phoenix fly around. He's allowing himself to get additional energy on that sentry. And now he used the hallucination here as well on the sentry for a bunch of probes. Fun fact, in case you're unfamiliar, when you hallucinate probes, you get 4 of them. We pretty much always see it being used for a Phoenix, because it's a very fast unit that can be used for scouting. But I really do like this new ability. So, to clarify, in case you haven't read the patch notes, the shield battery overcharge ability is gone. Instead, the shield battery itself is beefier, so it has 50 additional shields and 50 additional health. And it's been replaced by an energy ability instead. So what you can do is you can click the Nexus, you can exchange some of that energy and put it onto, well, for example, the Sentry. And there we go. Immediately, it can be used for scouting, and this ability is super powerful. It is on a 1-minute global cooldown. You do have to have your Sentry here in this case close to the Nexus. But this is something that's going to allow Protoss a ton more scouting and, for example, high ground vision. If Estrella is feeling brave, he can blink into the main base, but he has spotted the siege tank here. Yeah, he's just trying to poke away here at some of these exposed add-ons. But I don't think he's going to be able to achieve all too much. But that is cute. I actually think a lot of people are sleeping on the energy overcharge ability. Yes, it's significantly worse defensively. But honestly, shield battery overcharge in most situations, it was mostly like the, oh no, I need to defend better button, right? Now, obviously, you can still do that. You can still overcharge, for example, a shield battery and get additional energy on it that way. Would like to see some probe movement there, but anyways, 4 workers end up going down. Now you don't really have that, oops, I'm in trouble button, but you do get a ton of additional scouting, and when you get a ton of additional scouting in the form of hallucinated phoenixes, you should also be able to see those incoming attacks quite a bit easier, because one of the reasons why Protoss oftentimes is caught off guard and needs to use shield battery overcharge is because they're mostly blind. They can't really see nearly as much as, well, especially Zerg, but also Terran. You can just scan ahead of Terran, right, if you're, well, concerned about the situation. But a lot of it has to do as well. Oh, nice little flank by Clem, forcing the blink backwards and then snatches most of those Stalkers. You will be able to force that army back home, or at the very least the units that are left over. 7 Stalkers going down is huge. But anyway, since Terran is naturally the aggressor in this matchup, it usually means that Protoss can be caught off guard, and apparently Estrella is thinking about meeting this army out on the map. A little bit ambitious. He doesn't apparently just want to force the siege up, he's also retargeting that Colossus. Nice retargeting there too, though, with that siege tank, finishing off the big boy up in the air. Range will finish up for this second Colossus when it pops out of the Robo's facility. Raven's still going to town, but it doesn't have the interference matrix researched, and yeah, ultimately, it looks like both armies have been traded out, and Protoss is going to try and get the 4th base going right around the same time that Terran is securing a 3rd. I am really liking the energy ability, though, on the Nexus. I think it is much better. Let's see. Is there enough? Colossus joining in the fray. Now with the updated PTR patch, my main concern is mostly in the Disruptor. So the Colossus in this version of the game has also been updated. It's a small update. Now this Zealot run by could actually be huge. But the Colossus now has 50 additional health and 50 less shields. So the net total of the Colossus is identical, but it means that it's going to be quite a bit of a worse target when it comes to using the Ghost. And obviously the Ghost now, with the updated version of the balance patch, also has 1 additional supply. It will certainly make it a harder, massable unit, right? Like, you can't really make nearly as many of them as a Terran, but I still fully expect that we are going to be seeing Ghost Academies at this point in the game basically every time. Essentially, right around the time that Terran is thinking about making a 4th command center, and when they have secured the 3rd, they can get the gases going, and they can actually afford going into the Ghost. But I think you'll have, especially in Terran versus Zerg, less games where Terran is making like 20 Ghosts. Which is kind of nice. I think that's a very reasonable thing. So the updated version of the PTR, it has now made the Ghost 3 supply rather than 2. Which is kind of funny, because when somebody asked me a couple of months ago, and they asked, hey Lowko, how much supply? Without looking it up, how much supply do you think a Ghost is? I actually said, I think it's 3. Turns out it's wrong. No, it always was 2. Seemed like a very logical thing to me, that the unit is indeed, well, 3 supply. There's barracks 6, 7, and 8 coming up. Ghosts are building. So in this version of the PTR, they are still 2 supply. But I don't think we're going to see that change revoked in what will very likely be the final version of the patch, it will be 3 supply instead. So far, I gotta say, Ley Lines is looking great. Pretty map. None of those like super dark hues underneath, which I always disliked. Back in the day, we had some very dark maps, but this one is nice and bright, very well decorated. I always liked the ones with, you know, the very natural landscapes, I guess. And then on this map, we have the ley lines of energy going around. I'm assuming at the very least that's what the purple and the reddish stuff is. Pretty map. I know I say this every time we get new StarCraft maps, but we really have been spoiled over the years. Because map design is very good these days. So we actually have 2 rich gas geysers. We have one over here. Yeah, and the way that this thing is laid out, it is currently preventing you from building the rich Vespian geyser. So you can't destroy mineral fields. The only thing you can do with mineral fields is mine them out. Estrella trying to see if he can get a flank. So there's actually 2 bases with a rich Vespian gas. That's cool. Zealot flank. Charges, of course, on cooldown because they just used it. Planetary Fortress now with 1 less armor in the current version of the patch. Used to have 3 armor, now it's only got 2. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but it really does make the unit and the structure die significantly quicker. Nice micro there, though, by Clem. Disruptors are coming up. So disruptors have been increased in their radius of the Purification Nova. So it's now a radius of 1.5, which is what it once used to be. However, the damage has been reduced. Most notably in this matchup, it means that they can still one-shot ghosts, but they can no longer one-shot marauders. And that's significant. I don't know if I like it, to be honest. I feel like it would have been okay, but it's gonna give Terran a little bit of a chance. Nova will be used. No units really caught there, and that's obviously the power of Clem. There's still a lot of Protals out here, though, and Estrella has been messing up quite a nice army. He just warped in an additional gajillion Zealots. There they are. We're basically playing Zealot Disruptor here. That's a lot of Zealots, by the way. Is that a good idea? We're only at +2, +1. Double upgrades, though, are coming up in the Forge, and they will be finishing here over the next couple of seconds. Massive Zealot run by, already heading on over towards what seems to be the other side of the map, or potentially a flank. Prism speeding around the bottom of the map. This is Gravitic Drive done, so yeah. Missile turret can be passed by pretty easily. Look at those, look at those Marauders actually surviving. So here's the Zealot flank. Woo, he tried to pin that army against the wall. Maybe sacrificing some of the Zealots in the process too, but Estrella is playing a really nice game here. Obviously, Estrella has always been good, but he is going toe-to-toe right here with Clem. You really see that that early game gave him a very nice setup for the remainder of the match. Zealot's now going to town. I think he's got this one in the bag. Yeah. A straight macro game by the American Protals. And it looks to me like he's won against Clem. Very nice. Very nice. Honestly, Estrella just played a good game. And this is one of those things where you have to be a little bit careful with the balance patch, right? Like, it's very easy to look at the changes and be like, ah, this doesn't sound significant, right? All of these little things, they do add up. And even though the changes are all relatively minor, I think the updated version of the balance patch is going to make this more one-sided. Yeah, still though, this is not over yet. Clem is very far behind, but he's got a lot of command centers. And there's really no easy way for Mr. Estrella to break through this. Looks like one little unit there tried to be annoying. Okay, he is gonna double down. Using the bowling balls in that direction. Clem coming in clutch as well, though. Mass repair on the planetary fortress. And that is how a game can be thrown. We've seen this happen time and time again, where you think you can kill it. Yes, it's got one less armor, but mass repair is still not to be underestimated. Oh, great targeting here by Clem. I just don't think he's got the numbers. Yeah, GG gets cold. It's the American Protoss who gets game number 1. Ooh, the map description for this one is very dramatic. Snow Blankets, this 2-player medium-sized standard map. The fastest attack route takes players along a central high ground path, with many ramps branching off to further expansions. That's it, we're finding ourselves on a map called Snowpiercer. First off, great name. I don't think anybody can complain about a map called Snowpiercer. Looks like we have little jump up pads going up onto the high ground on both sides. We have a normal natural expansion, looks like a regular width. It is important in StarCraft map design that you can wall this off with 3x3 structures, and then maybe a zealot. So I guess you can technically make it like 10 squares wide, but this looks all very standard. The only thing oh my god, I see a face. Am I crazy? These are 2 eyeballs right over here, and this is like bunny, oh no. And we have a nose? It's a bald bunny. Beautiful. Anyways. Oh, there's another one. Look at this. Yeah, that's definitely another face. Look at that. I actually really like that. That's cool. I like these decorations. I haven't seen those before. We have some Mayan decorations here. Looks pretty cool. Okay, so... Right, maybe the decorations aren't that important though. But again, legibility on this map looks awesome. We have some indicators of the wind. Although I don't think that's gonna affect anything. Imagine that though. Your shot's gonna go wide because the wind picked up. That's how we nerf Terran. There's now a 90% chance that you will actually hit the target. That's what we need. A little bit of randomness. That'll make the game better, I'm sure. No, actually, I hate that. Okay, so... third base is all the way up here. It seems like the alternative is down here, but that does feel far away. Especially when it comes to these 2 larger ramps that are leading up towards this high ground. So I would imagine this is going to be the third base. Meaning that you need to control just 1 ramp. And then there's a choke point over here that is also quite defendable. There are more expansions up north. But this is all looking extremely standard. Nothing all too weird. Nothing all too strange. But it's new and fresh, and that's honestly what's important, right? So the previous map featured a rich Vespian gas situation, which is pretty cool. So a way to make a game slightly more enticing, or a map or an expansion a little bit more enticing, but at the same time, not make it all too exciting, right? So I know there's a lot of people out there like, make the gold the main base and give the players 2 rich Vespian gas geysers right at the very... Look, if you make the map extremely different, the end result will simply be that one race will be much better on that map, and therefore the other players will always veto it. That is the nature of the game. You will just end up with a map that has like an 80%-ish probability to win for one of the races, and even though I like the theory of making the maps crazy, it is very difficult to make a crazy map that is also simultaneously balanced. So a lot of the maps will look at least somewhat similar. Now this is a big attack here though from Clem, coming in with that Hellion squad together with the Reapers. Still though, the Oracle is out in time. He actually used... Ah, that's cool. I was wondering how the Oracle got so much energy, but he used the Nexus ability here on the Oracle to make it a little bit more viable. Very cool. I actually think in general Stargate builds are going to become a little bit more popular in the new balance patch. Mostly because the Stalker now takes 3 less seconds to produce. Doesn't sound like a big difference, but one of the problems you run into is that the Stargate is expensive. And it's just hard to get Stalkers out at the same time too. So this is a quick blink on the back of this. So this is the world's most expensive Oracle, because this guy also has to be calculating in the cost of, well, the Stargate, right? Which is 150 minerals and 150 gas. In the meantime, though, on the other side of the map, this Hellion Reaper opener, it got followed up right now with a good old triple Rex. We should see the +1 attack start up here as well for Clem, as soon as he gets up to 100 minerals. Clem, don't forget about that upgrade. It is a critical one. Generally speaking, you try to line up the combat shields, the stim pack, and then also the +1 infantry. Clem is selecting it over and over and over again, but he's not actually starting up the upgrade. Interesting. Yeah, now he starts it. So I guess he went back to see how far along his upgrades were. And then he realized he didn't actually begin. He didn't actually start it. Oracle goes around the site. So this is not a start with sentries. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way. I know Estrella has been messing around a little bit with with sentry first builds. I wonder if that's going to be a more viable option coming up in the new multiplayer balance patch too. You would be in some trouble against some builds, I'm sure, but... this does still look like an army, though, that's going to be able to create the chokehold on this Nexus. Blink is finishing up in 10 seconds, but I don't think it's going to help much against 2 siege tanks. +1 infantry attacks or not. I would imagine that one is a guaranteed cancel. Whoa, did he not cancel it? No, he did, okay. The animation there made it, yeah, it made it seem like it wasn't actually a cancel, but a kill. But he did cancel it, and he decided to restart it in the other location. Some reinforcing Terran units, though. Out in the middle of the map, unsieged, mostly by themselves. Some nice Stalker micro is gonna, well, save the day. Only 2 have gone down so far. I don't really mind this beginning here for Estrella that much, despite him losing the 3rd Nexus at this point in the game. A lot of those Terran units are currently out on the map, though. You have to be careful here as Protoss that you're not gonna get flanked by that army. Okay, he decides to just recall it. Nice targeting there by Clem. You see him how he split? Half of the units to fire on the low HP one on the left and then the other half on the one on the right. He knew he was going to get both kills that way. It's the logical thing to do. But when you have about a 1/10 of a second to click, it's not that easy. Just split and click. Just play faster. Yeah, that's always one of the nice things for Clem. He's never been limited by APM, it seems. Most of us mortals feel like we have not got enough actions per minute, but... Clem's very fast. Until charge is done, those siege tanks are going to have free reign, and that's exactly what Clem is going to be using right now. He's thinking about leaving those siege tanks behind. A little bit dangerous. Storm is also finishing up momentarily. 3rd Command Center building right now, relatively late. It's only a handful of Marines here, so he's going to target down a couple of the probes and get on out. Oracle up in the air, we'll see exactly what's up. Do we use the energy ability, by the way, on the Templar? I guess it's not a bad idea, eh? We have a lot of storms available already. I think, though, Estrella needs another wave of Zealots. You kind of want to have the Zealots here charging at those siege tanks. He's just trying to buy time. There we go. 6 additional Zealots coming up. Clem sees them as well. Not much he can do about it. He did not quite expect his entire bio ball to get stormed, and just like that, nice targeting though with the siege tanks. He actually manually shift queued all of those High Templar down. So originally there were a lot more storms available there for Protoss, but every single one of those Templar, it has died. So excellent targeting there by the Terran player. I think if there was another storm or 2 in that fight, it would have looked a lot better for Estrella. Ultimately, quite a few of those probes ended up going down. There was also a lot of time there, a lot of lost time, because he used that Nexus ability, I think, several times on the High Templar. Fun fact, this wasn't really done in StarCraft 2 until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but yeah, you can retarget with siege tanks. This was very uncommon back in the day. Everybody just sort of let the siege tanks fire. And then you get guys like Clem that have excess APM, and apparently they can shift queue the High Templar whilst also stutter stepping the Marines. Again, it's one of those things that looks easy. It doesn't even look easy, but when you think about the control you need to do right there as Terran, right? So he's macroing at the same time at home. He shifts queues to siege tanks while stutter stepping with his bio ball. It is not easy. You have to do an absurd amount of actions just to execute that fight. And honestly, I think it would have been better if Clem decided to go home ever so slightly before that, because that was a very risky stunt, but he ended up maneuvering his way out of that really, really nicely. And now he's making the transition towards the Ghost. A couple of the Stalkers, though, will be able to go after those non-stasis Marauders. We do have some Stormy Boys available. This is one of those situations, though, where I think if you're Estrella, you're like, oh my god. I would have been in a perfect situation right now against basically any other Terran. He's not even really making any mistakes. Like, he's fallen behind ever since he had to cancel the third base. Despite Clem forgetting +1, he had just enough units. The Stargate into Blink, it just doesn't allow you that much stuff, and the Blink was just a little late. He couldn't really slow that push down. And with the army parked over here at the ramp, he just had to give up on the third. Estrella doing all the things right, though, to try and get his way back into this match. But Clem is still Clem. Nice storm over here, though. Ooh, very nice storm. Clem not paying attention. Uncharacteristic mistake. Is because his eyes were set over here on the right side instead. He wants to get the probes, but also the base. Rather than going home, he decides to engage Estrella, that is, the units that are trying to reinforce that army. Nexus, though, explodes. Robo Bay on the back of this second Robo facility. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now building inside of the main base. Wouldn't mind seeing a second engineering bay, but in the meantime, ooh, apparently this army did decide to clash over here with the one of the Terran. Ghost reporting. Gonna be forced to EMP some of those units and get on out. Rather than the base over here on the right, though, Estrella has decided he wants to take the expansions in the top left-hand corner of Snowpiercer. This one does feel far away, but I don't disagree with him. It seems like this is a difficult expansion for him to hold on to, even though my initial impressions of it seem quite positive. I guess even though there's only one ramp to worry about, it is also actively in the direction of the opponent's third base. So as long as Clem is positioning his third base in that direction, even though this one is technically slightly easier to get to, the distance that you have to cover here as Terran is just a lot shorter. So Estrella's base is expanding away right now from the Terran. It's probably the right call. Big feedbacks over here. Woo! Lovely feedbacks. Good snipe as well, though, by Clem. At least gets a little bit of retaliation, but those Medevacs and those Ghosts are mostly out. Colossi are coming. Clem's still slightly ahead in this game, but not by a ton. The double upgrades, though, are nice. Having that second engineering bay here. Finishing up 2-2, he'll be definitely maxed out by the time that he gets up to the +2 infantry attacks. Assuming he doesn't trade out units in between now and then, he's gonna have a very scary army. There are double upgrades as well, though, here for Estrella. He's gonna be finishing 2-2 in the near future. I feel like it's been a long time since I've seen High Templar being used a lot in this matchup. Now, High Templar Archon, I mean, this is a good unit comp, but again, the Ghost is gonna be the main target. Good feedbacks, lovely feedbacks here by Estrella. He does lose a bunch of units in the process every time, though. A lot of his army is currently caught up on the right side of these bases. Clem is maneuvering around his units in one big bowl, rather than doing a lot of multitasking, which is what he usually does. Yeah, he wants to get his cake and then eat it too. He gets both the probes as well as the Nexus. This is the second time. There's also a Zealot apparently pretending to be a probe. Happy Halloween. I'm not actually a probe, a prop. Okay, he's already dead. A trick-or-treating Zealot. Nice attack, though, here by Estrella. It honestly comes down to the Templar. How many Templar do we still have? Just the 2 of them. They do have a lot of energy. Misrallied Colossus over there in the mix. This is, for all intents and purposes, an all-in right now for Estrella. Clem is doing a phenomenal job dodging all of these units, but I think this is mostly an experimental game here from Estrella. Trying out how this sort of follow-up works against, well, the world's greatest Terran. I think this would have been fine if he didn't fall behind earlier. Yeah, and that is the beauty of Clem's games. Clem rarely makes a mistake. It may take him an additional 5+ minutes to win, but the guy is so good at just playing. He's not really doing anything too fancy here. But this is very much so that Serral-esque way to obtain the victory, you know? Like, you find yourself with an advantage early on, and you just build. You keep building. Problem with building it is that it can be very easy to accidentally let the wind slip through your fingers, but in this particular instance, I think Clem is just a little bit too far ahead. He's playing it conservatively, though. New expansion coming up in the top left. Estrella has a new base in the far bottom right that I think at this point, yeah, has been unscouted. Although Clem did have something attack moving on over in that direction, it looked like. Again, just like the previous game, this is certainly not over yet. This is still the new old, or the old new version of the Liberator. They did make the changes to the Liberator once more. Oh no. We've already seen a Colossus being misrallied. Yeah, Protoss players really need to stop doing this sort of thing, man. Can we like not... So what happens is you set up a rally point for your observer, and then the next time around when you make a robo facility unit, you don't reset the rally point. Look at this Immortal, it's just sitting around. Ah, big waste. We already saw a Colossus on that same path. Now apparently, a not so Immortal also being given up for free. There was nothing inside of that prism, but the prism did go down. Good EMP right there by Clem. Prevents any storms. There is a bit of a flank coming from the north. Colossi now taken out of the equation. We have the fusion core coming up on the back of this as well. Estrella does still have a very large army though. Some decent storms coming in. But this Terran army is looking so big. Good storm. Once more. Can he ride his way through this? Oh. Using those storms to almost like shepherd the Terran army around. Reinforcing Zealots coming in clutch. Estrella actually holds the big attack right here from the world champ. Woo! This matchup is looking mighty competitive on the PTR so far. There's the new old advanced ballistics. The old new advanced ballistics. So to clarify, this is the old version of the public test server. We have a new version of the public test server that just got changed. And some of the changes are quite significant. Like, for example, the one on the Liberator. Okay. Great fights here, honestly, by Estrella. He's also, in the meantime, taking another expansion in the far top left. Even though these two are fighting because they don't like being neighbors at the bottom of the map. They are already, unbeknownst to the both of them, neighbors up north. It's a little bit weird. They're like, no, you back up. Oh, actually, Estrella knows. Estrella is well aware. Okay. So this could be one of those situations where we're gonna see... Oh, good EMPs. Where we're gonna see the very oppressive Liberator. Yeah. So this has already been quote-unquote solved. Because Terran is no longer gonna have it. That update has been removed. Look how large those circles are. Look at the size of those liberation zones. Oof. I don't know, dude. Way too big. Yeah, so they've already gone back on that. That is no longer gonna be the case. Clem coming in with even more. He's like, don't mind if I do. Nice stalkers you got there. It would be a shame if something were to happen to them. I mean, he is doing a pretty good job, though, just targeting them down one at a time. Colossi and Immortals still fighting this one out. A couple of misrallied units here from Clem. A little bit overly ambitious. There's another Liberator up in the air. Stalkers will have to target it down, otherwise he's gonna get rid of everything else. Colossi still murdering stuff, though. Dude, is Estrella actually doing this? I feel like Estrella is very underrated. Like, when Estrella plays well, he's extremely good. Not generally the favorite going into any tournament. But when he plays like this, I don't think anybody is all too surprised either if he, like, makes it to, like, say, for example, semifinals or grand finals, maybe even wins the thing. Couple of Photon coming up. There's that massive I hate the Liberators. The Liberators are just so stupid here. It's way too much. Yeah, you can't break this. So the only way that you can hypothetically break this is with Tempest, but you don't, like, when you're slightly behind, honestly, even when you're ahead, the transition towards Tempest feels really hard. So, when you're behind as Protoss, your best course of action is to go into just more of the same, more Stalkers. GG gets cold. Clem played a phenomenal game here, but I wonder what this would have looked like if it wasn't for that Tempest. I think he would have still won. Yeah, no, he would have still been fine. GG. It works out for us, though, because it means we get to see another one of the new maps. And another one, well, of those bangers. So far, these two are going toe-to-toe. Our final game for today. It takes place on a new map called Whispers of Gold. This map features a simple 4-base setup that opens up once the rocks are destroyed. It allows fast army rotations for the attacker while providing interesting drop angles around an unusually positioned main base. Yeah. So the main base is not in the corner. It is slightly out of the corner. Most maps this would be, I guess, the main base. That location at the very least would be the main base. Okay, so let's have a look. Again, we should have a little Reaper jump up path. That is the norm. We have a little Overlord Pervert Pillar. That is also the norm. We have another robot with a face. Maybe not the norm, but after the previous map, I don't mind it. Large main base. Normal natural expansion. Regular choke point over here without a ramp. That is something worth noting for some of the Protoss matchups. Can be difficult for Protoss to defend. We have what seems like a gas station over at the third. Very convenient. If you're running out, you can top it off on the Whispers of Gold. This is all very flat. Interesting, huh? So normally there's a ramp that leads down from the main base down towards the low ground. Or from the natural, rather, down towards the rest of the map. But this is all on one plane. Yeah. This is all on the same height. Now, as a Dutchman, flat maps make me very happy. Because mountains are scary, right? We don't really like to see that all too much. So there's a lot of rocks that you can destroy on this map, it seems. Yeah, quite a few open paths that you can shut down. These ones in particular will open up a lot of additional attack directions. Is that a Thor that's under construction? We get neutral map objectives? At minute 20, an unkillable Thor will spawn. Try to guide it towards your opponent's base? Okay, no. That would be something. Don't think we're ever gonna have that in StarCraft. At the very least, not in the main game. They did change it with one of the final patches to the main version of StarCraft 2. That map makers can actually use a lot more terrain height. So back in the original StarCraft design days, we would only have a maximum of 3 levels. So kind of like this, right? So we have 1 level, a 2nd level, and then a 3rd level. This is the norm. The main thing about creating maps that have even more layers to it is that it's pretty much always got a significant defender's advantage. Being up on the high ground is an advantage. We've learned this from Star Wars. We've learned this especially, though, from siege tanks. Being up high is preferable. Now, once more, by the way, we've got ourselves a quick sentry build. So this is sentry together with a Stargate. Technically very difficult to afford here for Estrella. And I think the only way that he can be reasonably safe with this whole thing is because of the fact that he's got that energy ability on the Nexus. He should be able to continuously scout his opponent. Again, a very pretty map. I don't think you can really complain about any of these maps. There are little golden shivery... Look at this. There's little flakes of gold flying around. Is this the spice? Hold up right now. We mentioned Star Wars and StarCraft. Maybe it's actually Dune? Lifting up a Marine. He's got his eyes set, I'm sure, on one of the Cyclones if he can get it. They do call Clem the Lisan Al-Gaib ever since he grew out his hair. And he looks a little bit like Timothy Chalamet. Whispers of Gold is maybe for him, man. We can see the spice flying everywhere. Nice fight here, though. Clem just trying to maximize damage. The main thing here for Estrella... Ooh, run with that Stalker. Run with that Stalker. The main thing here for Estrella is that he only lost a single Phoenix. Phoenixes are very precious. You want to keep those around for as long as possible. Liberator was thinking about going into the main base, but that was never going to happen. Clem is already backing off. Estrella scouting here. Why is there a cow? There's a random cow walking around. That was weird. Anyways, he's already scouting. He's anticipating that something like this could be coming in. Medevac, Liberator, even a Raven, I guess, would technically be an option. But against Phoenix builds, usually those sort of options are not ones that you actually want to commit all too much to. Because the Phoenixes can clear you out pretty quick. In the meantime, third Nexus coming up over at the bottom of the map. And a Robo facility. So Estrella is going to try and eventually go all the way up towards the Colossus. Yeah, I gotta say, I really do like the new energy ability. The energy ability on the Nexus is sweet. I have really kind of missed Stargate builds in general in this matchup. I know they're still played, but they did really fall out of favor a little bit, and I wonder if just having that energy ability is gonna make it more viable. Ooh, big misplay here though. Ooh, okay, he loses only one Phoenix for it, but I wonder if that's gonna make it a bit easier for Protoss to confidently make these early game decisions. This is a massive pick-off right here for the American Protoss as he gets not only the Marines, but also the siege tanks. Oi, oi, oi. There is a lib in the main base. It forced some of those probes to scatter and to try and go around a little bit, but obviously its days are also numbered. Because those Phoenixes have come back home. In the meantime, the Stalkers at the front are trying to see if they can go knocking on the door of our Terran player. By the way, why are units floating to the surface here? Whispers of Gold is underwater? I don't know if that's right. We had some units flying through the map. This is an underwater map, or it's an above ground map with underwater physics. It must be all that spice. Maybe I'm hallucinating. Everybody knows cows are not aquatic animals either, so I feel like it was quite apparent we weren't underwater. I guess they're sea cows? Anyways. Where are the upgrades at? Forge finally has started researching. Engineering Bay is going to start up its second upgrade. Clem forced to go around here. The additional barracks are... the additional gateways are coming up right now here for Estrella. He's probably already thinking about going into another base here momentarily. Instead, we're going to go for a Templar Archives for now, though. I would imagine this is the likely fourth base option. Technically, you can also go down over here in the bottom left. But again, that would be... Yeah, I guess in both instances, you expand in the direction of the Terran. Pick your poison. Ghost Academy coming up. Ranged for the Colossus coming up. So we have not really seen a ton of Colossi in this matchup in general. We haven't seen a lot of Phoenixes. Like, we still occasionally see them. But it's certainly a little bit different. Do you guys think that, like, a 1 supply increase on the Ghost is enough? Because I know the StarCraft community is kind of, like, on a high this week. Everybody's like, yes! They listen to us! The Ghost is now 3 supply rather than 2! I feel like it changes nothing. Okay, now it changes a little bit. It's gonna specifically matter, I think, in Terran versus Zerg. Because in Terran versus Zerg, the Ghost can kind of turn into an army all on its own. But against Protoss, generally it is a spellcaster. And obviously it means that you can have less Marines, less Marauders. I do think the increase in supply is negligible in this matchup. I mean, it will be impactful, but very small amounts. Oh my god. Gravity is just very slow on this map. Okay. Vikings trying their very best to go in. You know, one thing that would be nice to see, maybe a little bit of mothership play. I know it's an uncommon unit to make, and I don't think it's going to become more common in this matchup because of the cost increase, but it would be kind of nice. Oh, Zealots trying to see if they can get an angle. Estrella knows he's been in a good position this entire time, but it is important not to overextend. A lot of expensive units here are dying on the side of the Protoss player. Those EMPs are still really hurting. Great control here by Clem. He's going to have to dodge that ball, but does a phenomenal job. 2-2 has been fired up as well in the meantime here by Terran. And that's going to finish up in about a minute or two. It'll be a while, but if he finishes it, if he can stay alive until that point, it will be a massive power spike, because Estrella is still only on just a singular upgrade. That EMP really messed up Protoss there. A lot. 4th Command Center, in the meantime, growing a little planetary fortress hat upon itself. We do have the 4th Nexus done right now for Estrella, not going for the one over here, but instead opting for the one a little bit closer to the main base. These fights are all extremely delicate, though. So the main difference there is that if the ghosts are out, you would need like an extra supply depot a little bit quicker. So there are going to be a couple less Marines. Maybe 1 or 2 Marauders less as well. It does add up. It does add up. These fights are all very small. But there is certainly a chance that that would have gone substantially better for Estrella, because things in general tend to snowball quite hard in a game of StarCraft 2. Like, you get a small advantage here, a small advantage there. Like, a fight between, like, 10 Marauders and 10 Stalkers, or, like, 10 Stalkers versus 9 Marauders is a very significant difference. The difference is 1 Marauder. No, but the trade-out is going to work out very differently. Now, these mistakes, though, you can't afford to make against Clem. Clem is not only going to snatch that prism and the units, he's also thinking about getting this Nexus over here. In the meantime, there is a fight over on the right side, near that newly made Nexus. The freshest one, though, in the bottom left-hand corner of the expansions is going to get denied, and that is going to slow everything down to a trickle. Yes, Storm is coming, but now the players are on even basis, and Clem is starting up his command center explosion. He wants to get about a dozen of those bad boys so he can drop mules for days. Big Terran drop towards the main base. Size Storm is done. Are we going to get a good Storm? Clem paying attention. Splits the majority of his units away. Doesn't really lose that many of them. And in the meantime, he's also pushing over here on the left side of the map. We have a fusion core on the production tab too, so he can once more go into those upgraded libs if he wants it. There might be enough here eventually for the Protoss player to try and push this all away. But Terran decides to land behind this now that the Vikings are no longer needed to go after prisms or to go after the Colossi. Drop in the main base is still going on as well. And with all of those probes going down and the army disappeared, it means that Clem is going to obtain the victory in this series 2-1. You can really tell when the 2-2 upgrades kick in.